My name is Thomas Sophonow. Just to brief you a little bit about my case is that in 1981 there was a strangulation murder of a 16-year-old girl in Winnipeg on December 23rd, which shocked the community and the city of Winnipeg because it's so close to Christmas and everything like that. I was arrested in Vancouver, about 2,000 miles away, for this murder. In March 12th, 1982, I was brought to Winnipeg and I had a preliminary inquiry, first trial. My first trial, it resulted in a hung jury, and I was held over for another trial. In 1983, I had another trial. That trial resulted in a guilty verdict, and I was sentenced to life in prison. I appealed that for another trial. I was granted another trial, and my third trial, which was in 1984, resulted in a guilty verdict as well, and as well as result was a life sentence in prison. I appealed that, and I was subsequently acquitted by the Manitoba Court of Appeal, and the Crown appealed it to the Supreme Court of Canada, and the Supreme Court of Canada upheld my acquittal. And I was acquitted on December the 12th, 1985. Since 1985, up until June the 8th, 2000, I was fighting for my freedom, my justice, and to prove to the Canadian people that I am not a murderer.
So the acquittal wasn't just enough?
No, it wasn't. It was a cloud hanging over my head. I was still guilty. I was still considered a murderer. It wasn't until June the 8th, 2000 that I was exonerated by the Winnipeg City Police and the Manitoba justice system. They apologized for, they apologized, and they ordered an immediate judicial inquiry into what went wrong with the justice system, what went wrong at my trials, and the compensation phase. Because presently there's an ongoing investigation into the suspect of the murder, we dealt with the compensation phase, and actually starting on the March 12th is the trials and the investigation. The evidence was eyewitness identification and jailhouse informants. It got to a point that my lawyer would come up to me and say, "You confessed again." He would give me the statement. I would look at it. I'd just sort of throw it back at him and said, "Get this out of my face. I'm tired of this. Everybody's confessing." We have 3 people did testify in court, say that I told them I confessed to them. I had about 9 or 10 people say that I confessed to him. There was one person who had 33 charges of fraud dropped against him. He was given a voluntary departure back to Hong Kong, and because the police just put him on the plane. They knew, or the RCMP and immigration wanted him, but the police just put him on the plane. The other one, he was given $10,000 cash. He had his rape charge dropped, and he was given future considerations for future charges. Can you grasp that? That means he can go out into society and commit 2 crimes against society, and the police and the Crown Attorney and the justice system of Manitoba would turn their back and allow this person who has had a rape charge dropped and previous rape charges against him commit 2 crimes, because on the document it says future charges and future considerations, plural, not singular. So at least 2 charges he can commit against society. And we have another person who testified. He not only committed perjury, other murder cases, and was charged and convicted of perjury, but he wanted to, the reason he said that I confessed to him is he wanted to move to a minimum security prison. I was in a super maximum security prison. There were 3 who was called up by the Crown to testify in court. There was at least I estimated that. I just can't recall, and as I say, like every time my lawyer came up, I threw this thing back, like, "Get this out of my face. Don't waste my time with this. You know, why do you want to come up and see me?" At the time of the murder, I was giving, I purchased a lot of Christmas stockings, and I was giving them to the kids, and well, that was my purpose, of giving them to the kids at the hospitals who couldn't go home for Christmas that evening, because it was December 23rd, right? I've done this in my past before, so it's just something very private to me. And when, at my first trial, when I took the stand and gave evidence, I testified that I was doing this, and there was a nurse at the Victoria Hospital, which she came forward after the trial and said that, yes, she recalls a person doing this. She didn't work before December 23rd. She didn't work after December 23rd. It was at that time. And it was at the time when the elevator doors opened up, the alarm was going off for the visiting hours to be over, and it was of her habit every single time she works. She was walking down the hallway carrying her folders of files and everything like that to take them down, and I stepped out of the elevator. At second trial, it was brought out, and she was deemed as the dead sure lady. She was so demeanored by the judge at my second trial, the jury disallowed it. During the charge of the jury, the last words the judge talks to the jury, there are two members of the jury sleeping. I was falling, and it's my trial. I'm sitting here with life, and it's my trial. I was falling asleep. I looked up the jury, and there were two people in the jury sleeping. I was going to stand up and say, you want to wake up here? I know it's very boring and everything like that, and you should pay attention. They were sleeping. And the judge is going on for, it was like a day and a half, talking to the jury. Well, it was my persistence to get the case, to get DNA, to get the gloves that was worn by the killer tested for DNA, which in the past 15 years, I used to always get a letter saying, this case is an ongoing investigation. Your request is denied. Wrote letters to the Justice Department, to the federal government. Even the federal government says, well, I'm sorry, we do not intervene. We only advise problems. So I suggest you get a lawyer and deal with it in a provincial matter. So a new chief of police came into power in 1999. He ordered a criminal analyst to look into this case. Based on that evidence of the criminal analyst, I was exonerated. It was the evidence of 1982 that the police had at that time that exonerated me. DNA evidence was not a factor when I was exonerated. I'm presently going under a judicial inquiry right now. As I said, in a week, it'll start dealing with the investigation and the trials. And at that time, then we'll see how the fingers were put on the scales of justice and just sort of putting it down a little bit.